In today's video, we're going to discuss this Cine rig I've made for the FX3 and cover all of its components and give you an idea for the total pricing of this rig setup. I'll even put a link to the items to make this rig down below. Now I have to be honest, this has been a long time coming and it hasn't been easy to find the near perfect build for me that I have here. Now, quick mention, the Type-C cables will be replaced for the coiled cables as this is just hazardous. Now, to give a bit of context on why I wanted a setup like this, I'm a big fan of shooting handheld. I like the organic feel of handheld and just prefer it overall over gimbals. It's not that I don't use gimbals, I just shoot more handheld. Now, having a bulkier and heavier setup like this does help stabilize your handheld shots a little more compared to a stripped down version where it's just the FX3 and a lens. Not only that, it also saves me from having to constantly change batteries. Not that it's a problem, I have about 15 MPF 100 batteries, but that's besides the point. Now I do a lot of different kinds of shoots such as commercial, product, corporate, and even weddings. I've actually taken this to a wedding and look, it's heavy, it's very heavy. Though I didn't have to change the battery one time, it got down to about 65% on an 8-hour shoot. Now mind you, I was switching off the camera when not in use to save the battery. It also didn't have the monitor at the time. Now this is a great setup when wanting to impress clients with your rig. It's like a mini FX6, though I will say it's not just about first impressions either. There are some awesome benefits to having a rig like this. For one, no more stressing about carrying a bunch of NP970 batteries to power the monitor. I'm not kidding, they are bulky and take ages to charge. I've got a 4-bay charger just dedicated for them. Though, this V-Lock has been a lifesaver in that regard. Now, let's actually talk about the rig itself. There are 8 components, not including the camera itself. The mounting plate and battery plate were one of the most important components that I had to get right. One of the things that I said to myself is I will not put this on rails. Not that I have anything against rails, it just gets too bulky to the point where it just doesn't work for me. So rails was not an option. Then I saw a video by Caleb from DSLR Shooter with the Cineback rig, which by the way, great work, looks awesome. However, he sold out pretty quickly, and to be fair for me, it was quite pricey. I then found that the small rig, the mount battery plate. Now this was the perfect fit for what I needed to start this build. Now once you have the mounting and battery plate, you build from there. Now I purchased this without the quick release, which was a mistake. So if you get it, definitely get it with the quick release plate. Otherwise, you may have to do a do-it-yourself kind of rig. To give context, I use the Falcon F38 quick release. I've got half a dozen of them. They're on my tripods and 3 cameras. I'll never go without them. I absolutely love them, and they're honestly probably one of my favorite pieces of accessories I own. They come in so clutch. The mounting plate of small rig also allows it to extend, so you can move the battery closer or further away from the camera, up to your preference, which I found useful. Now because of the plating situation, the Falcon F38 quick release was too small and short for the mounting plate on the small rig, so I came up with an idea. Because I didn't want to buy another quick release system, I used gaffer tape on the mount itself to increase and close the gap. Now the Falcon locks in tight and doesn't move, which is awesome. Now the next component is the DTAP cable. This is the cable that's going to power your monitor. Now I made a rookie mistake. I bought the DTAP to DC 12 volt cable, which my monitor doesn't have. So I had to purchase a different one, which in fact was a DTAP to dummy battery. Now this is going to depend on the monitor you guys have. I have the Shinobi, which doesn't have a 12 volt slot, though the Ninja V does. So keep that in mind. So this will completely vary on your monitor. However, with that being said, you could always get the dummy battery to DTAP and it'll just cost a little bit more. Now next is the monitor. As I mentioned, I use the Ninja Shinobi. Honestly, I really like this monitor. It's lightweight, it's very affordable, produces beautiful colors, screen is pretty bright for what it is, comes with a sun hood, which is an honest must in summer, and works great. The battery life was pretty decent, getting about 4 hours on 50% brightness on a 970 battery and 2 hours at 100% on the 970s. Has false colors, everything you need in a monitor pretty much, including LUTs. Now of course the HDMI cable. I'm just using a regular HDMI cable for the monitor to camera, and honestly it does the job. So nothing fancy there. Next is the USB to USB-C cable. Now this is to power the camera straight to the V-Lock itself. Now it's important to note, most of the older V-Locks do not have Type-C. They'll have USB-A but not Type-C. So if you have an older V-Lock, keep that in mind. I'll cover the battery shortly. Anyhow, the current Type-C to Type-C cable I have, as mentioned, is quite a liability. It's long, it's not coiled, and I'm worried it can just be pulled out and damage the ports. It wouldn't affect the footage at all, as the camera would still be recording, as you will need to keep a battery in it to power the camera itself from the V-Lock. Now there is the option to get an NPF 100 dummy battery to power through DTAP, though I've heard some stories about the camera getting fried and I just don't want to go near that. So I'm leaving the DTAP for my monitor. I'm also using a small rig wooden handle grip that is connected to the left side of the FX3 because of the cage setup. Now sadly I can't use both 1/8 threads because of the cage setup. It has one 3/8 thread and one 1/8 thread, which for the life of me, I can't understand. Though, the one alone with a bit of tightening seems to hold well. It also has a hot shoe mount above it and some 1/8 threads as well as a 3/8 thread, which is sweet. The next one is the FX3 audio handle. Is it my favorite? No. I don't like the cheap feel of it. I wish it was more reinforced and durable with this kind of weight. It works, but it does scare me. Now, with that being said, I do switch around at times, and there is another option. You can use a top handle like this. I'll see if I have a link for this, and we'll put it in the description if I do. Now, this is another option that will work well if you'll be syncing in post later on. Now for audio, I'll normally run the Rode Wireless Pros or the NTG3, though the NTG3 does not sit well in the mount of the FX3 audio handle, which sucks. Now finally, the last piece to this rig is the V-Lock itself, the one that is powering this beast of a setup. Now you'll notice this isn't the small rig mini V-Lock, and there's a reason to it. Now while I absolutely love small rig gear, I have so much of it as you can see, and more. It was quite expensive, and as you can understand, expenses are through the roof when it comes to doing this full time. Now I ended up going with the newer mini V-Locks as it was much cheaper, and I got the 99 watt mini V-Lock, and have to say I'm pleasantly surprised how good it is. It has a display to show what's in use, how much battery is left, and works like a charm. Now I will mention though, I noticed that leaving the V-Lock with the USB-C connected to the FX3, even when not on, eats the battery. So it's important to disconnect it when it's idle. I also noticed a couple of times where the battery wasn't powering the camera, even though it was plugged in. So I'd have to unplug the Type-C cable and put it back in. Then it'd work as intended. Just a small thing I picked up when filming with it for the day. Overall, I'm very happy with the build. To give you guys a rough idea of runtime with the battery, powering the monitor and camera, I'm getting about 8 to 9 hours of power, which is pretty awesome. Now let me know what you guys think of the rig. Do you guys like it? How's your setup? Let me know in the comments. Now, if you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really does help the channel. Feel free to subscribe for more content like this. And as always, I'll see you guys on the next one.